everybody. I'm Farah Ahmed, and I'm here with Sue Hounstein, and we are with Fort Bend Voters League and Fort Bend CAN, and we are doing this kind of candidate conversations that we've done for many years now. It's very popular. It's a great way to get to know the candidates. We have a wonderful candidate here for Fort Bend ISD, Shirley Rose Gilliam. Hi, Shirley. How are you? Welcome.
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are y'all doing today?
Great, great. And we'll continue with the conversation with Sue. We'll take over a little bit of the questioning.
Yeah, I'm going to start. I get to throw the easy one out, which is we need you to introduce yourself to the people that are viewing and tell us why you're running.
Hi, my name is Shirley Rose Gilliam, and I am a career educator with 34 years, 25 of those years right here in Fort Bend ISD. I started out as a teacher at Willow Ridge High School, assistant principal at Kempner, associate principal at Elkins High School, principal of Bush High School, principal Marshall High School, and principal of McCullough Middle School. At that time, I hopped over and I went over to HISD and did some work as a principal in HISD. I have been in this community for 36 years. Both of my children were raised here, went to Fort Bend schools, and I have a doctorate in educational leadership. And from Texas A&M University, I'm a career educator. I am still working. I'm retired, and I'm actually working out in HISD, and I'm assisting a 7th grade team at a middle school. And so I am here, and the reason why I'm choosing to run again is that I'm concerned about the district. You know, we have a new superintendent, and I was there when we hired her. And I believe that we need continuity and consistency on the board right now. I stand as myself and another trustee for 2 years and 6 months, and we're the senior members. And it's really important that we continue our work. I'm just excited to be running again, and that's all about Shirley.
Thank you. And that's great information to have. I think people will enjoy knowing that about you. You know, a lot of the people that vote in these elections have never been to a school board meeting. A lot of them never had children in Fort Bend ISD. They've moved here after their children graduated or before they had kids. So would you please give us kind of a rundown of your understanding, well, your knowledge of what a school board member does?
What a school board member does is govern the district. So basically, everyone knows us as we're the boss of the superintendent. We hire the superintendent, and are not necessary to get into what we call all the quote unquote weeds and going into classrooms, making sure teachers are doing their jobs and principals and everybody else. It is our duty to make sure that we are assessing the district and providing governance to the superintendent. When we see different things that need to happen we go to the superintendent and we discuss it with the superintendent. So and where we are right now, it's a matter of it's about student achievement for the board. The number one goal is student achievement.
Well, and I think you nailed it. I mean, the misconception, a very common misconception out there, is that you know, the board members can do things that they just can't do. This is the board, and I said this earlier. The board merely tells the superintendent what direction they want to see the district go in, and it's up to the superintendent to get you there. I think what I didn't mention earlier is that it is your job to evaluate the job that the superintendent is doing. And that's an important part of your job.
That is correct. And we're right in the middle of the evaluation right now.
Okay. So Shirley, you have nothing to do with appraisals, because we keep hearing about appraisals and home appraisals have gone up. What does the board have anything to do with this?
The board has absolutely nothing to do with its board. The only thing that we have, our job, is to make sure the superintendent is doing, and I'll say her because it is a female superintendent, her job. And we govern her, and we make sure that those things are happening. We don't have we don't hire, we don't make suggestions. You can make a suggestion, but that person still has to be vetted or what have you. So that is our only job, and to support and to make sure that we have student achievement in Fort Bend ISD in our district.
That's good. You know, we hear
And that's through the efforts of the superintendent and her staff.
she carries out those duties.
Yes.
Correct. So we hear a lot about vouchers and what's happening in the Texas legislature, and you're giving a reaction. I think we get a lot of that from people that are public school advocates, real advocates. They're concerned about the vouchers, but what are your concerns, or what are some of the things like your average citizen should know about, or some of the myths out there about vouchers that we're seeing pass in the legislature right now that's going to give maybe up to $8,000 kind of credit for a parent, a family to go to a private school or a charter school, something where they can use that money instead of it going to the public school district.
Well, the one thing I'll say about public schools, we teach everyone, we accept everyone. And what happens with the charters, and I do have some experience with charters, and when we're looking at a voucher and you have $8,000, well, we spend more than that in public school on students. We definitely do. It doesn't just take $8,000 in order to educate our students. What I've noticed in charter schools, many times I'll go all the way back to, well, we'll talk about discipline first. Parents need to know that if your child has any discipline issues at any given time, a charter can say, okay, you're done, and you go back to your public school, wherever you're zoned. So another thing are services in the district, in public schools. We have many services. We have services for special education, for bilingual students, for all of our students that have different issues, and even for our students with 504, what have you. We have all of those different things. I have, and this is what I saw on my own in one of the charters, and I was in a classroom and I was evaluating the teacher with T-tests, and I noticed that there were a group of students that she wasn't calling on, and there were about 30 students in the classroom. And so I didn't want to grade her down. So I asked her, I said, hey, do you need me to come another day? Because this is what I didn't see. And she said, well, no, those students they don't speak English. And there had to be at least 15. And I said, well, I didn't hear you do any type of differentiation. And she goes, well, I don't know how to do that. And she also said that she had one student that was bilingual, and that one student was actually, and I'm not just guessing 15, I counted 15. And so that one student was talking to in Spanish, the 15 students in the class to help them to do their work.
Wow.
And it really hurt my heart to see that. So the services are not the same. But again, at any given, if the students are not coming to school, they can easily withdraw the students, say to go back. And one thing about public education, we want our children in our public schools. We want our children in Fort Bend, and we want them there because we know that we are best suited to give them a quality education.
So definitely you feel like vouchers are just going to negatively impact public education if this bill is passed, or this is enacted.
Yes, I do agree. I do agree with that. Vouchers, the schools.
It's going to take away from someone, right?
I'm sorry?
It's going to take away from someone, right?
It will take away from someone. I've seen it take away. Just the story I just told.
Yeah,
takes away, because we if those students were with us, we wouldn't have. They would be much further. Yeah. And this is what I saw in my educator viewpoint.
I get to ask you like all the easy questions, it seems, right? So voucher, and then the next one is the bond, that $1 billion bond that's going to be on the ballot, the same ballot that you're on. People are asking, is it fairly distributed? You have the east and west side of the district. That's one of the questions. Are there other cost-effective ways we don't need that much of a bond? And the fact that it's broken down different portions, what happens if some or all of that doesn't pass? What impact is that going to have on the school district?
Well, I personally, I voted for all A, B, and C. I voted for the bond, and number one, it's what we need. And I don't necessarily want to go back in time, meaning that in this particular year, we should have done this, and this, it should have, would have, could have. It doesn't matter right now. We just didn't. And so where we are right now, we have some makeup time to do. And the way that when I finally came aboard, it was pretty much, I was skeptical because I heard different things and we hear things, but when we were able to dissect exactly what was going on, and we had it was a 1 hour meeting that was scheduled, but it was a 2 hour meeting that was scheduled and turned right into 3.5 hours. And it was a matter of, there were things that we just didn't do. We patch, and I have to compare it to my house. And so if I just patch things up in the house, well, eventually I'm going to have to rebuild the whole thing. And so where we are, we're rebuilding a couple of schools, well, 3 schools, but at the same time, we are doing upgrades and things that we need to do. And so where I feel about it and what I know about it, and listening to residents, it's really easy to look at one school and say, why can't we have that because they have this? And the one thing that I can say about the administration, and I have talked to Dr. Whitbeck left, right, all around. I'm like, okay, give me the reason. Why are we doing it? Tell me, okay, give me, I want to hear it. And they have been very transparent when it has come down to, when I say they, the administration, Dr. Whitbeck, when I ask for, I need the stats, and you tell me what you know about this and what you feel about this. And I, of course, I've done my research, and I'm not going to name names, but it's a matter of, this is something that we have to have in Fort Bend ISD. We have buildings that are in need of repair. And as far as being fair it's hard to say. I can say, yes, I think it's being fair. It may be something out there. Do I know every single piece of it? It may be one thing that someone did not bring to me, or I did not research further, that could come back to me and say, well, why are we doing that? And there are a few that I've asked, and I got I was able to receive information about it, and then I understood it. And I understood why it was happening at this particular campus. And then this campus over here, this is what we're doing. So it was a very long process. This started way back in the fall, and it wasn't anything that was hurried or rushed. So I believe that we have done our due diligence, and we need this, and I definitely support it.
Yeah. What's going to happen if it doesn't pass? I mean, what the VATRA didn't do so well, and the messaging and explanation. I mean, people don't want their taxes impacted. They're very concerned about the bond and what that's going to do in terms of impacting the budget and future tax rates, possibly. What do you have to say about that?
Well, what I have to say is, I'm a trustee, and I'm going to go to the superintendent, and I'm going to say, what's your plan? What are we going to do? And that's my role. What are we going to do?
Along those lines, I mean, knowing that the bond could fail, it could pass, and I assume most people know, I assume people don't know, because I see a lot online. They think that you're passing these bonds and they're upset because you're not giving teacher raises, pay raises. Now, we know why, but can you explain to them, and if there is a plan to move forward, how you will compensate the educators as well as the rest of the staff, the personnel in the school district, to enhance people to come and to stay?
Well, one thing with the TRE is that was exactly what it was for. I was very excited. It was for the teacher raises, to give something. And I was excited to say yes. I can remember the meeting where we decided that this was going to happen, or that we were going to put it up for a vote. And unfortunately, it didn't pass. And I think that many times there was miscommunication. We could have done better. Excuse me, as a board, we could have done better. The entire administrative staff, excuse me, could have done better. And so, but we didn't. It came out where it was. We still had 55,000 plus that of our voters out there that did vote for it. Where we are now and coming through is not the same budget. We cannot take bond money and use bond money for raises and salaries. So I am in support. Again, I'm a 34-year educator. My first year of teaching was 1989, and I was the one that was making $19,000 a year. So I'm the one who became an assistant principal because I was going to get a raise in that way. So I do understand. And not only do I understand that, as I said, I'm in the field. I am at schools pretty much every day. And as I said, I work for a middle school in HISD, and I see the work, and the work is hard. It is very hard after the learning loss of the students, after I see behavior. And oh my goodness, I will so want teachers and our administrators, all of our campus personnel to have that raise. And so we're going to be working on that. Another thing that happened that I saw right before I left the district, it was where I noticed that my first year at McCullough, and I was the principal of a middle school, and I was a high school person, and looking to see just how hard the teachers worked. And I remember at the time they had a 7-period day, and there was one period they had off. And I advocated they have to have a planning period and they have to have a conference period. And that actually came into fruition the next year. I believe that we had McCullough, and because I was asked by the superintendent at that time, what would be the one thing that you would change? And I'm like, we have to give the teachers more time to prepare. So right now, there are other things that we can do, but I know we're strapped for money. But one thing I speak with Dr. Whitback about is, how can we make the campus life a little bit better for our teachers and for our principals? Because that's where the rubber meets the road. When we're talking about student achievement happens at campuses. And we have to make sure that we have the best people there and that we are taking care of our campus staff. And that comes from janitors to, from our custodial to our cafeteria workers to teachers to everyone who is working at the campuses. Everyone's important, but that's where the rubber hits the road.
Right. And I think that we're looking for those kind of salary impact maybe coming from the Texas legislature too, to help with
yes, ma'am. Yes, I agree. Yes, the $33 billion that we continuously hear that possibly can come to us. Yes.
Right. What are we attracting the best and brightest into the teaching industry for Fort Bend ISD, and what are we doing about teacher morale? You talked a little bit about that. I thought that would be.
Well, we're a culture of kindness, and I believe that one thing with Dr. Whitback brought into the district was that, I'm going to say, the breath of excitement again, and going out to schools and just being kind to each other. And I was very glad to hear that. When I was a principal over at Bush High School, my motto is believe in the possibilities. All things are possible if you believe. And it's consistent information to where we're just being positive about things. We know that there are things that we need to work on, but let's look at what's good in our lives right now. I believe it's a matter, when you're looking at campus culture and teachers staying, that campus culture is huge. What are we doing on the campus when we have different issues that are going on in classrooms? And we are having behavior issues, how do we work with that? How do we listen? Teachers need to know that we're listening. And as a board member, I'm listening. I had a conversation this morning with Dr. Whitback of just, sharing my thoughts and it's not anything directly that someone's calling me about. It's just things that I know that are happening through other friends. And it's just like, how are we making sure that our teachers are taken care of? When we're talking about recruitment, I believe we really truly need to listen to teachers. Like, okay, so tell us, how do we get folks in? Can you, I wish we had money. I'm like, for every teacher, that you recruit, we'll give you 500, don't quote me on that. I'll be, but I would love to be able to give, yes, thank you. Sign-in bonuses and, and encouraging. And I still to this day encourage, students that I see that are out there. Actually, my students, what are you doing these days? You've ever thought about teaching? Come on back, that type of thing. So we have to look at our recruitment, and we have to look at the ways that we that when we hire folks are in processing. I can't think of what the term is on it now, but when we are hiring and onboarding. So when we're onboarding our teachers and onboarding our employees, how are we making them feel? And then at the same time, what comes, okay, we give them a sheet of paper to fill out to tell us how wonderful it was. I'd like to see a personal conversation. I believe in, sending cards and writing things and making sure that people know just how much I care. People, when we care about our employees and they know that we care, you're going to hang around. I hung around for a long time, and I had some good people that worked with me and good people that were that I worked for, my supervisors, and that was the number one thing that kept me there. It wasn't the money, it's how I was treated. So and how I felt to be part of the Fort Bend ISD community. And here I came back. This is home.
Wow.
And I would really like, I'm getting a little bit emotional. I would really like to see our district get back that way. And we can get there.
It's the retention of quality people, It's a holistic approach too. Like you said, it's not just the paycheck, but the culture and environment that you create. Well, we're getting close to our last question. That was our last question, but I thought we'd give you an opportunity to make kind of a closing statement, something that you want the voters to hear from you directly. This is your chance to say something.
Well, I like to tell my story now because a lot of people don't know my story. It's getting out there, but I'm one child out of six, and my parents' name, I'm Shirley. I'm the daughter of Clarence and Teresa, and Clarence and Teresa are from Church Point, Louisiana. Daddy had a third grade education and mom had a ninth grade education. I was one of six that actually went to college, and we were nomads. My parents started in Louisiana, and then from there they moved to California. So they had two daughters there, and then we went to move to California. My brother and I was born there, my other sister. So I like to tell people I'm a Valley girl, but okay, I'm not, but no, I've got Creole in me, and I love gumbo and boudin, and and then after that, then we were in Seattle. So Dad was a carpenter, and he was a brilliant carpenter, but he had different kind of issues that were going on. So every now and then we were just nomads. Wherever the work was, that's where we were. And we ended up in coming back to Texas, or coming back this way. We actually came for a Christmas vacation, or Christmas for to see my grandmother right there in Mamou, Louisiana. And then Daddy just decided that we were going to move close to Louisiana. So here we were in Houston. And so, but and that was the first time we would, in my kindergarten year, I started my school in kindergarten was in Seattle, and then I was back in San Francisco. Then it was Hayward. It was, Daly City, and just went on and on. But when we moved back to Texas, Mom said that was enough. We're going to stay in one place. And so, and that helped a whole lot. So I was at Grissom, Dowling, and then Madison High School. And there was my typing teacher at Madison High School, and I was an A student. And she said that, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to go to the post office and work after I graduate, because Mom said that was a good job. You get 3 weeks vacation. So that's where I was going to go. And she put a college application in front of me, and she said, you can do this. And so, and I never looked at a teacher and said that, well, I can't do it. She told me to do it, so I did it. So with that, I became a teacher, just like Miss Humphrey, my typing teacher. And I just loved her. And another thing with our home life, it was rough. It was rough. Daddy was alcoholic, and he was a wife abuser also. But my mom kept us all together. And now my mom, she'll be 85 tomorrow, and if she's probably not going to look at this, but happy birthday. And the one thing about Mom is she kept all six of us together. And when all of it came to the end, my 5 brothers and sisters, she has 14 grandchildren. Wow. And now the 14 grandchildren, because Aunt Shirley went to school, my brothers and sisters made their children go to school. And so we have now, I counted 7, but there's actually 9 of my mother's grandchildren who have a bachelor's degree, and 4 of them have masters. And we became an educated family because of one teacher. And I always loved school because it was a place that was safe, and there wasn't arguing. And everywhere that I work, I try to make that place like the place that I knew when I grew up. So I'm an educator at heart. I want what's best for Fort Bend ISD. We have to have consistency. And I ask for your vote, and I ask for your vote because this is what I do. This is my life. Education is my life. And student achievement is number one because I know what it can do for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shirley, for your time and spending with us in these conversations. We hope to see you soon again. And I know Sue has some closing remarks also.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that with us. That's heart. I can tell it came from your heart. I just want to remind people that this is a very important election. It is not like your normal Tuesday elections. This is a Saturday. There's not much on the ballot. You've got bond elections, you've got school boards. There are a couple of cities, but they won't affect too many Fort Bend ISD residents. Early voting will start on Monday, April 24th and run through Tuesday, May 2nd. No, yeah, May 2nd. So I just want to remind you, it's really important. You can vote from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on May the 6th. If you're going to vote during early voting, please verify the times because since there are so few elections this time, the hours are different and they're different. Some of them are different locations. It's your normal polling location may not be open. In Fort Bend County, you can vote at any polling location that's open. So we hope you'll take the time, look up, do some more research on the candidates, talk to them, call them, email them. Their information is out there. So we really appreciate you watching this video or our series of videos. And thank you so much, Shirley, for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you all so much for your time. I do appreciate you. Thank you.
You all.